There are no story spoilers in this video, but if you're looking to grow your channel, take the guessing out of YouTube, or move games, I'm pleased to announce myself and my YouTube partner Stonewall are launching a service to work directly with you and give personalized advice to help you and your channel best. If you're interested or want to learn more, please email this email on screen or the email in the link in the description. Thank you very much. Borderlands 4 has just blown the community away, and by that I mean everyone's PCs and consoles just blew up. Veterans have been waiting 13 years for a Borderlands game that could compete with the all-time great Borderlands 2. Many hoped that this new installment would finally create the similar feeling. So far, there's been really every reaction possible from the community, from extreme anger to extreme happiness. But after a few days, we are finally able to gauge the community sentiment to answer the question of, do we finally have another Borderlands game to rival the mythical Borderlands 2? Controversy with the Gearbox CEO, secret rainbow loot, and more all play into big community reactions to Borderlands 4. But before we talk about all that, we must address the elephant in the room: the game's performance and optimization. It took just 2 hours for review bombing to start happening on Steam, after community-wide performance issues became apparent. PC players were outraged that having the recommended specs still resulted in a struggle to get to a stable 60 FPS, while console players were frustrated with the promised FOV slider and motion blur slider being absent. Very few games have a completely smooth launch, but server issues tend to be the most common one. This was not the case here though, and the so-called Stutterlands 4 experience instantly put a sour taste in the mouths of the community members who did not have a PC borrowed directly from NASA. A promised day one patch reportedly eased some of the issues, but it seems very circumstantial. And please comment your platform specs and playability of Borderlands 4 below. I'm interested to gauge where we're at so far. Community sentiment is obviously hugely important for the success of a game, and I think that's fair to say in the world of gaming that it often takes a developer to do 2 or maybe 3 positive things to offset a singular negative, especially one that directly affects playability. So to what extent has the community been able to look past these issues so far? Story and dialogue were a huge letdown in Borderlands 3, and everyone has been anxiously awaiting to see how the narrative team would respond in this latest entry. The reaction to the story has been somewhat mixed, with some saying the dialogue doesn't slap like it used to, while other people are just happy they can mute Claptrap and sleep at night. Story and narrative will always be subject to personal opinion, but the sentiment right now seems to put Borderlands 4's story as different from the former game, which will certainly please many, with one user stating that they found the Borderlands 3 story tone deaf, with Borderlands 4 story being much more interesting, and others mentioning that there were great hooks that made the story easy to follow. The added darkness in Borderlands 4's story is apparent from the very first mission, and it's fair to say that the intensity of it caught so many off guard, myself included. The villain certainly gives off a different vibe from previous entries, with some loving the added darkness, while others mentioned how they missed Handsome Jack. It was almost impossible for this story to be worse than Borderlands 3, yet at the same time, I've seen no super crazy positive best story ever reactions so far. As more people complete the campaign and as the reactions to the hooks and plot twists flood in, it'll be interesting to see how the community ranks it compared to other games, and whether reactions turn more positive as performance increases. Because no matter how much someone tries to detach, a stuttering, crashing experience is so much harder to become immersed in, even if the story is great. Thankfully though, there is one thing that the community has reacted very positively to. That's the loot. Compliments to the loot system are by far the biggest positive the community has had to say so far, with a vast array of reviews mentioning how loot is everywhere. Though this is very different from the golden shower of legendaries in Borderlands 3, it seems. One user commented 117 legendaries and I can't even find one, with many feeling that the word legendary has a lot more meaning than it did before. Gearbox even surprised us with a piece of loot that many of us didn't even realize was coming either: shinies. Teased over 8 months ago in the official first look trailer, Eric's managed to find a phosphine weapon, a rarer legendary with a rainbow cosmetic upgrade. Any Pokemon fans or community members who just love collecting are bound to love this. Prior to launch, I think it's fair to say that there was anxiety among some about how well the open world element of the game would be executed. I didn't want there to be a community-wide feeling that Kairos felt empty and a chore to move around, and really hoped that it would be a good addition to Borderlands. But I was wrong. It's not a good addition to Borderlands. It's a great addition. I've yet to see much negative criticism of the world itself, with one user saying the world begs to be explored, and I really couldn't have put it better myself, but I personally hope that Gearbox keeps encouraging this sense of exploration with the addition of more puzzles, secrets, and bosses down the line. I'm yet to see anything that truly stops me in my tracks, but I'm interested to hear what the coolest thing you guys have found so far is, so give me some FOMO that I can look for. While there are lots of good and improvements on Borderlands 3, there are without a doubt some more long-term lingering issues emerging from the community that do threaten to cause the dreaded Steam chart drop-off. Skepticism has emerged from some over the endgame, with questions of, what do I do after the story? Somewhat ironically, one of the best parts of Borderlands 3's endgame has not made it to Borderlands 4 either, with raid-like takedowns not even planned on the roadmap. For many of you, it might seem like a non-issue, but I think once everyone gets geared up and super powerful, having that final challenge that tests everything is an essential in a looter shooter nowadays. And as much as you hate them, Bungie does see a massive amount of players hopping back on for raids and dungeons, even when their game is struggling. Not having anything of that nature would be a big miss in Borderlands 4, but I'm interested to hear whether any of you watching share the same skepticism, or if you're confident that Gearbox will satisfy this. The community has also pointed out plenty of UI issues that, once again, may not seem like a huge deal, but in fact play a big role in a free-flowing and engaging experience. A well-written Reddit post from Soltergeist outlines item comparisons, weapon markings, and especially weapon filtering, leaving much room for improvement. Sorting is set by default to manufacturer, and preferences are not saved, with one user saying, how that slipped by testing in a looter shooter is mind-boggling, and it's hard not to agree. UIs are once again personal preference, but creating a game players find easy to navigate is essential for engagement. And with common criticism over the lack of minimap, UI, and HUD, it's clear that Gearbox might need to rethink some areas. But there's one more area causing much frustration for players that has nothing to do with the gameplay itself: Randy Pitchford. While typical CEOs are level-headed and provide stability in times of struggle, Gearbox's CEO couldn't be more of the opposite, and is pretty well known for adding fuel to the fire in times of outrage. Pitchford added some gasoline to the performance issue controversy by suggesting players could jump up 70 FPS on PC instantly, but it was by turning on frame gen and DLSS, which is not only frowned upon, but only available to those with relatively new graphics cards anyways, initiating exactly the kind of reaction he should have expected. However, Randy still had some gas left in his jerry can to pour out into the fire.
Why are you the way that you are?
While many couldn't enjoy the game due to performance issues, Randy was encouraging players to break the servers by logging on over the weekend and offering the community a break free pack, which included skins and a legendary shield to celebrate server failure, only to have everyone in the comments roasting him for the performance of the game and questioning why he would want to break the servers when people can't even play long enough to stay on them, or with no frame rate to see the game work at all. The answer to the "are we back with Borderlands 4?" will ultimately depend on who you ask. It got off to a bad start, but there's lots of good seemingly to come on the roadmap, but there's without a doubt some improvements to be made, possibly starting with the CEO deleting Twitter.